Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. My name's David and this is my channel. Today we're going to talk about one of the bigger things. There is no enemy. This could be tough, especially in a world that's so diverse and so many things going on, so many different opinions, different personalities, including infliction of what we would call pain and war and all kinds of stuff. So it's hard to understand there is no enemy. But let's talk about it. This is going to happen in pieces. So what I recommend right off the bat is to just speak this aloud through faith. There is no enemy. What does that feel like? Because I've gone through this in many stages of my awakening until I absolutely knew it was true. But there was many times where I had to keep on saying it through faith and letting go of it a little bit at a time. So this can take a little bit of time, but don't squash it if you can. If you really want to be one with the universe, and if you really want only loving thoughts moving through your mind, and if you really want to be one with your brothers and sisters and to see love and to create a world that you want, and to be able to experience that in which you really enjoy and have passion, then this needs to be something that you say on a regular basis, because as long as there's an enemy, there's something standing in the way of all of that in your mind. And that's going to be really important because, we have that inner child mind, so to speak, that part of us that's fun and exciting. And once we came here for a purpose and for a lot of joy and adventure. But we also have that bigger, broader, higher mind perspective that's leading that child, so to speak. And they're both kind of flowing within our own energy or our own mind. So that child part of us is going to feel, from my perspective, very guilty that it hasn't done a good job here because things haven't worked out in its favor. Does that make sense? It's not working out for me. Things are not flowing for me. I've made mistakes. I've done this and I've done that. So it kind of puts the brakes on things and then becomes very fearful and afraid of what the world thinks of it. So if I can convince you that is the only sense of an enemy that you really have, is that inner child that is fearful, or more, I've learned that fear is just guilt. So the inner child tends to believe it's not doing a good job. You ever felt that feeling of unworthiness, or I wish I wouldn't have done that, or things haven't worked out exactly, or why does my body hurt, or why is the money not flowing? You see, all these kind of move in one direction, especially if you're the center. They're all going to point to the idea that you must have made a mistake, that I must have done something wrong. Now, that inner child inside of you knows that it's a creator. So therefore, it's going to take all of that on its own and say, I must have created a mess. I must have not done this right. I must have made a lot of mistakes. Can you see that for a second? Sit with that inner child part of you and see what it's saying. This is something that I've done a lot, and it's really been helpful for me. That part that says, oh no, I'm worried about what people think of me. I'm worried about if they're going to appreciate me. I'm worried about, if I'm going to be successful. There's all this idea of this outside pressure on this part of you. And it's very, very worried about it and keeps it consistently. And that's what that mind activity is really mostly the fears or the guilt of that part, that inner child part of us. Now, one of the things that I've done that I recommend is, as you sit with that part of you and feel that truth, that, because the projection tells us it's coming from outside, but why don't you let go of the projection a little bit and you recognize that there is a scared, fearful part of us that is kind of scared of the world. And yes, there's a physical component of us that's scared of dying or scared of bodily, problems, body problems from inside, from pain, suffering, but also maybe, getting in accidents and hurting ourselves in a physical way, or even loss and death, because we all go through that. But that inner child part of you is a soul. So the more that you kind of sit with this idea that it's not really thinking in terms of the body as much as we think it is. but it is thinking in terms of judgment from other souls, because a soul itself cannot hurt you, cannot attack you. There's no attack unless you have a body. Do you see? So that's really important to understand. You know, if a soul attacks you with its mind, it attacks itself. We all know that. There's that idea of judgment. You can only judge yourself, and then the other soul has the opportunity to allow it in or not. So that inner child part of you is really afraid of the judgment of other souls, maybe of the Father, of your higher self, and so forth and so on. It really feels like the universe is judging it, so therefore it's very afraid. And therefore it contracts, and this causes a lot of the emotional distress in our mind and in our body, and then eventually it leads to pain and suffering, contraction in the muscles and the bones, and so forth and so on. Sit with that understanding, and that will help you if you're going through any kind of pain in your life. You could be sure that it's that part of you that feels like it is guilty and hasn't done a good job. And if you can help that part release a little bit, that pain and that emotional body is going to clear up. That's for sure, because we're supposed to flow, and energy is supposed to move, and we're supposed to laugh, and we're supposed to get what we want, and the desires are supposed to come in. You see, if they're not coming in, there's some congestion, and the congestion is always coming from that part of us. I've learned that part that's afraid of what that outside thinks of it, and therefore contracts. Now, from that perspective, once we know that that is the only real enemy that we have, because it can attract things it doesn't want, you see, from that vibrational standpoint, and then you can attract a world that's not working for you. Remember, the universal law of attraction will bring you anything you want. It doesn't think in terms of what's right or wrong for you. It's your inner being, that bigger part of you, that is helping us bring what we want as we learn, as we grow, as we move through the contrast. So that means that part of us, that inner child part of us, can start attracting through fear the more we identify with it. And then we're going to start getting a life or a journey that necessarily is not everything we want. Now, the good news is, on the other side, it is bringing everything you want, because it never stops. In other words, if you live the contrast of what you don't want, you're going to ask for what you do, and it's going to be queued up in the universe and wanting to come in. But if that part of us is afraid, then it's going to keep that away. You see, it turns the magnet, like we talked about, into a resistance, because now it's not loving its creations. That world out there is your creation. It is literally, and trust me when I tell you, literally a part of you. And when you're able to turn that on and experience the oneness of the world with you, it is one of the most miraculous things in the world, by far. Because now you don't just look at a plant, you become the plant. You feel the plant. The world speaks to you and talks to you, and it becomes a synchronicity of just incredible joy and flow and fun. And there certainly is no enemy, because everything's flowing perfectly to you. So when I started moving into this place of oneness or unity consciousness, and started becoming more one with my environment, with my life, with my creations, I started realizing that the enemy literally was the fear and worry of that part of me, that inner child, that seemed to feel guilty. So from my perspective, I had to go through a huge cleaning, so to speak, of all that guilt I was holding on to from my past, of really looking at my life, not being happy with it, not believing I don't have as much as I need, and so forth and so on. Has anyone ever felt that? So therefore I felt unworthy, therefore I was beating up on myself, and therefore I was using the world in order to do it, and looking out there at my creations, believing they weren't my creations, and then pushing against it, fighting, and so forth and so on. So if anyone's in that circumstance, I recommend take a second and look at that part of you and recognize, is there a lot of guilt there? Is there a lot of looking back at the past and saying, man, I really wish I could have done more? And if there is, then this is the perfect opportunity to understand that that is the only enemy, so to speak, the only misperception, because there is no true enemy. Misperception and creation and potentially vibration that's bringing in manifestation in your life that needs to let go. And how do we do that? By recognizing the other side, that inner being. Oh, this has been such a beautiful blessing in my life. The more I started focusing on my inner being, the more I started focusing on my higher perspective, my broader perspective that we call it, the one that knows everything about me, the one that, you know what, 3 a.m, you can have the hardest thing going on, and out of nowhere, in a matter of a second, you can feel the love of it. I've done some crazy things in my life and things that I certainly wouldn't share. We all have. But you know what? That part of me would never make fun of me. When I was younger and I got made fun of by other kids, that part would never make fun of me. And I remember thinking and sitting with that. It loves me unconditionally, no matter what I've done in this world, no matter what I've said in this world, how many mistakes I believe I've made. That part of me is saying to that small part, that inner child, you're doing a great job. I love you. What a wonderful life. What a wonderful experience you have created. And I want you to feel joy. And I want you to feel the satisfaction of your life. I want you to recognize that the past doesn't matter, that only right now matters. Let's move on from this moment, is what it's saying. Feel good. Feel good with who you are. Feel good with the essence, the truth of who you are. Because that inner child and that inner being, they click together to create one. That inner child could be like the part of the wave, or like Yeshua would say in the way of mastery, the foam of the wave, and the inner being can be the ocean. But they still come together. The wave is still the ocean. Do you see? And that's what that part of us wants to tell us. I really encourage it. This has been such a huge opening in my heart, and it just took my enlightening to a whole nother level of oneness when I realized that that part of me is reaching out all the time. We don't have to be in control of who we are. Let me tell you what I can do, and I can do, and me. That's what Jesus meant when he said, be like a child. Children are excited. They're ready for more. They want the world to help them and to teach them, and they're excited about it. They love the world. They love their creation. They're creative geniuses. They just want to go out there and experience and have fun. And at the same time, they listen to their parents for the most part, or they listen to the love in their heart and the adventure in their soul. There is a part of us that's guiding us. We can call it our future self, a part of us that's already received everything we've asked for, that is then now guiding us towards it. Once I really embraced that, life became so much better, knowing it was already done, knowing that no matter what I think I've done, because you can identify with that inner child and feel its guilt. And I know what that feels like. But that part says, Dave, you haven't done anything wrong. I love you more than I can possibly even explain to you in words. I want you to feel it through your heart, because that's the best way I can convey it to you, is that feeling of love, that feeling of appreciation, that feeling of what a wonderful life and what a wonderful soul and one wonderful person you are, and what you have done and what you have achieved and what you have given to the sonship, to the unified consciousness of all that we are. Your life has contributed to it. And that part wants to talk to all of us more than anything in the world. So I recommend sitting with that part, even if it's just for a little bit, and say, talk to me, speak to me. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. I'm excited to hear how much love you have for me, how much appreciation you have for me, how much desire you have for my life, how much you want me to move forward and learn and grow and to become more of who I am. It is one of the most amazing things in the world, right? It's like the phone call. It's calling you. It wants to speak to you. It's so awesome. So as we learn to sit with these two parts, recognize, yes, there's definitely that guilt and that fear and that worry, because there's a part of us that's afraid of becoming who we are, perhaps. But sit with that bigger part. Recognize I need to humble myself to receive. I need to stop going in my life and knowing everything and figuring everything out and getting my mind all congested. And I need to let go and receive. Receive. Say it with me. Receive. It's the key to everything. Receive. Sit back. I recommend, and just say, what do you have for me? What would you like to tell me? What would you like for me to receive from you? I do this regularly, and so much clarity can come in from that part that is just mind-blowing. We are one. We are one. And this world around you is one with you. And to experience the oneness of your creations in a magical, mystical way, we need to connect back to that part and let go of that inner child for a second and start shining light upon yourself. Shine light upon that part of you. You have done a great job. You are right where you're supposed to be, and everything is on track. Wow, now what's next? That's the only question we should be having. What's next? What do you have for me? I'm excited. I hope this helps. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share. Sharing is the universal way. And thank you for giving me that opportunity. And as always, it's up to you what you receive. Hit the like button if you like this video and make sure to subscribe. And as always, my unconditional love and appreciation on this wonderful, wonderful journey that we're all on together.